You ever get that feeling like you've seen this story before, even if it's the first time? There's this hidden pattern, kind of like a secret formula that you find in so many of our most epic stories. I'm talking ancient myths, blockbuster movies, you name it. Well, today, we're going to crack that code.
I mean, really think about it. You've got a farm boy on a desert planet who finds out he has this incredible power and, ends up saving the entire galaxy. Or how about a young wizard who leaves his totally normal life to go fight some dark lord? We're talking Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen. Their stories all have the same feeling, right? It's so familiar. So what is going on here?
So it's not a coincidence, and it's definitely not lazy writing. It's something much, much bigger. It's a universal blueprint that taps into something really deep inside all of us. So let's just think of this whole explainer as our own little call to adventure, to figure this thing out.
And this kind of structure, it's been around forever. We've been telling stories this way for centuries. This pattern actually has a name. And to really get it, well, we need to meet our mentor.
Okay, so our guide on this quest is the brilliant mythologist Joseph Campbell. This guy did something incredible. He dove into myths from all over the world, every corner of the globe, and he found this amazing thing. They were all basically telling the same story, just, with different names and places.
Campbell gave this universal pattern a name, the Monomyth. Now, you probably know it by its way more famous name, the hero's journey. And he laid this whole thing out in his classic 1949 book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces.
And this quote from him just hits the nail on the head. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. See, that's the whole point. The hero's journey isn't just about, fighting monsters and slaying dragons. It's a metaphor for all of us, for personal growth. It's about facing the things that scare you the most to find out what you're really made of.
Now, Campbell's original map has something like 17 different stages, which can be a lot to take in. But lucky for us, it can be boiled down to a really clear 3-act structure. It's a cycle, a loop. And right now, we're about to cross the threshold into Act 1.
And here they are. Super simple: departure, initiation, and return. That's the basic roadmap. A hero starts out in their normal, everyday world. Then they go on an adventure into some special, kind of supernatural place. And finally, they come back home, but they bring something important with them.
All right, let's dive into Act 1, Departure. This is the starting line. First, the hero gets a call to adventure. Of course, they're usually not so sure about it at first. That's the refusal of the call. But then, right on cue, a mentor shows up. Your Obi-Wan Kenobi, your Gandalf. And with that little push, they finally cross the threshold and leave everything they know behind.
Then we hit Act 2, Initiation. This is really the heart of the whole story. The hero goes through what Campbell called the road of trials. Basically, a bunch of tests that get them ready for the big one. That final showdown happens in the innermost cave, where they face their biggest fear. And if they make it through, boom, they get the reward. Could be a treasure, a special weapon, or just some huge realization.
And last but not least, Act 3, the return. But hold on, it's not over yet. Just because they got the prize doesn't mean the journey's done. There's usually one last big test, the resurrection. After they pass that, they can finally go home, but they're completely changed. And they bring back the elixir, some kind of gift or wisdom that's going to help everyone back home. Okay, so that's the structure. It's pretty cool, right? But so what? Why does this ancient pattern still matter to us right here, right now? Well, this is where things get really interesting. This is the real reward of our little explainer journey.
Because the hero's journey is so much more than just a way to write a good movie. It's a framework used in all sorts of places. Think about psychotherapy. It helps people see a personal crisis not as some terrible failure, but as their innermost cave moment, a challenge they can actually overcome. Even in the business world, it's used to help a company get through a tough change, framing it as a road of trials that's going to make them stronger. It's literally a universal map for growth. And get this isn't just some nice idea. There's real research to back it up. A recent study found that when people start to see their own lives, their own challenges and successes as a kind of hero's journey, they report having a much stronger sense of meaning and purpose. It literally helps us become the heroes of our own stories.
But of course, like any big idea, it's not perfect. The Monomyth has its critics, for sure. And as we've learned more about different cultures and different ways of telling stories, our view of Campbell's blueprint has gotten a little more complicated.
Yeah, it's really important to look at both sides here. On the one hand, a lot of people see it as this timeless global pattern. But on the other, some modern critics say, hey, wait a minute, this feels a little formulaic. They argue it can be pretty male-centric and focused on a Western point of view. And, they make a good point that it can sometimes ignore other amazing story structures from around the world that don't fit that single hero mold. So, it's a super powerful model, for sure, but it's not the only one.
So, what's the takeaway? Maybe the best way to think about the hero's journey isn't as a rigid set of rules that every story has to follow. Instead, think of it as a really powerful lens. A lens that helps us see these deep, universal patterns that connect all of us, both in the stories we love and in the lives we're trying to live.
Which brings us to the end. And I want to leave you with this final thought. This whole pattern, the call, the trial, the return, it doesn't just happen in movies. It happens in our lives, all the time. So the real question isn't whether you'll get a call to adventure. It's when it comes. How are you going to respond?